Sorry to call you for this week. I mean, we didn't plan it.
Yeah.
We did not call you just because LSU lost. I heard maybe you were at that game. How are you feeling right now?
I'm doing good. You're just trying to rub it in, aren't you? No, I went down to Orlando, or went up to Orlando from Miami for the ball game, and I thought we really had a chance. We only scored on one of the first three possessions inside the 5 and came away with 7 points instead of, at least 10 or 13 or 21. I mean, it could have been an early good start for the Tigers, and it wasn't. And FSU's defense, they had 90-something% of the defensive production returning in that game, and I knew it was going to be tough. I thought that we would be as powerful down the stretch as they were, and we weren't. I thought, Brian Kelly did a good job in the first half of coming out and having some explosive plays and dialing some fun things up. But in the second half, we looked dead. I don't know if it was because Florida State's crowd was probably 80% of the crowd there, and they had some of them going, but we made a couple bad plays, a couple drop passes in the second half, and just they ended up running away from us. And that doesn't happen very often. I mean, Georgia beat us last year in the SEC championship where LSU kind of got run away from. But other than that, it really never happens. And so it was odd to see that happen where everybody piled out of there in the middle of the fourth quarter, knowing LSU didn't have a chance to win the ball game. It was already over.
Josh, is that a La Tigre shirt you're wearing? We could see it on Zoom. Or that's not a Clemson Orange Tiger, right? That's a La Tigre shirt.
Just a La Tigre shirt, yes. And it looks like Clemson colors, doesn't it? And actually, Dabo, he didn't have a good week either. So,
oh, yeah. It's a purple shirt with an orange tiger on it. It's just, yeah. It means better things to come. But so,
that's right.
How down? Sorry, Josh. How down are we on LSU now? You can lose an early season game and still make a run in the national picture. But this one feels like LSU is not Alabama or Georgia in the sense that it feels like if they were going to make a title run, they had to really get off to a really great start.
They do. Last year we ended up bouncing back and winning winning the game against Bama at home, and gave us a shot at the SEC title because we got to play in the SEC championship game. And, you don't have to win them all, but if you lose that first one, now your back's against the wall. We lost the first one last year to Florida State in Brian Kelly's first ever game as head coach in the Superdome. So we were able to bounce back and play well enough to get the opportunity to play Georgia in the SEC championship. And if we would have beat them, then we would have gotten into the playoff, I do imagine, last year. So, I mean, things can happen in the SEC like crazy, but now our back is definitely against the wall, and we've got to come out swinging for the rest of the season. There's no room for error, especially when you got to go play Alabama at Bama. And, of course, Florida's not playing very well, but you got A&M, you got Auburn, you got Ole Miss, you got Mississippi State. We still got a lot of quality opponents, and, you got to stay healthy too. So it's going to be a long road for us, and maybe it makes us stronger. We lose the game and we work harder and get tougher and make it tougher, and we well.
Josh Booty is joining us, former LSU quarterback. We love picking his brain about LSU and college football and everything. Perloff and I have a big disagreement about where the expectation should have been for LSU to begin with, because Perloff's wondering if we rush the timeline. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but if we rush the timeline because LSU had so much success last year and going to the SEC championship game. I thought the expectations were fine to be super high with Jaden Daniels and Harold Perkins coming back, who didn't have a great game or wasn't used correctly in the scheme, however you want to look at that. But, I thought the expectations were fair to be high. What about you?
I like it to be high. No, they like it to be high. You want to be, a top-tier team year in, year out, and you want the fan base to be behind you all the time. And at LSU, you better have you better be a top 10 type of team for everybody to really get super duper excited. And I think they are. I don't think, everybody was down. It's one game. Florida State's a really good team. They're probably going to roll through their conference. I would think they got to play Clemson several weeks at Clemson, but Clemson coming off the loss against Duke, they don't look as near as strong as FSU in the week one showing. So, I think Florida State's a team now. If I was talking about this earlier today, I'm like, Michigan, Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia, and FSU look like the probably the best 4 teams in the country. SC's defense, I don't think they're there yet, but Florida State's a heck of a ball club. I mean, they're well-rounded, they're experienced, their quarterback's a leader. They got weapons. The kid, the wideout that had the big day, Coleman from Michigan State, the transfer. I mean, what a player he was, an addition for them. So I think Florida State's a really good team. I just think we kind of got behind the 8 ball in the second half, but now we got to bow our necks. But Florida State's really good.
All right, Josh, so obviously you have a lot in common with Deion Sanders, and if some of our listeners might not know, you both, you played Major League Baseball and you played in the NFL. Before we get into what's happening with Deion now, were you tight with Deion? Because you guys were right around the same time back in the 90s and turning pro in the 2000s.
Yeah, we've always been buddies. I played baseball against him when he was with the Braves and the Reds, and I was with the Marlins, and there was a couple of times where we got a chance to talk and we stayed in contact. I actually talked to him 2 days ago after the win. I have a senior receiver that's my son in Louisiana, Shreveport Evangel Christian, and he's getting recruited, and Deion was looking at his tape. And his staff was looking at his tape. So I'd love for him to get a chance to play for Deion. But, keep up with Colorado. Last week was super exciting for them to go down to TCU and win the game. They're 3-point favorites at home against Nebraska, and I see where all the money is going on Colorado. Vegas is making a big deal out of how many people are betting their games. But, Deion's always been kind of a hero to me, to be honest. He's just a phenomenal athlete, and I've got so many stories about him that he's just a dude.
Can we get the best Deion story from Josh Booty?
Well, one of the things that I remember playing baseball against him was, most baseball players round the bases when they hit an extra base hit. And I remember the first time we ever playing against him, he was in spring training, and he hits a ball down the right field line. I'm playing third base, so it's kind of away from me down the first base line. But I watched him run because I was so intrigued with his speed. Of course, everybody talks about his 4.21 speed or whatever, and it was the first time I played against him. So I was just watching him. I wasn't even following the ball until the very end of the play. But he got to when he rounded first base, it was like he was running an out route, right? So there was no rounding. It was just touch the bag and go dead left, and then touch second, go dead left. It's like he made three points of the square. It wasn't any rounding of the bases. And I was like, this guy's phenomenal. He's cutting on a dime out on the baseball field. I've never seen another do it since either. Most people round the bases and they curve their run, and he just went beep, beep, beep. And I was like, this is incredible. So, it was a stand-up triple. I think he got to third before I even got the ball in right fielder. And I was like, this is incredible. I got one other story. I have a buddy, Sam Hughes, that played quarterback at Louisiana Tech, and he said they went to Florida State and played in Tallahassee, and this is back when he was returning kicks and everything at Florida State, and they had the whole team was in his hotel room because they were on the road playing them the next morning, an away game, and he said they were all sitting in the room, him and all his buddies, and they turned on the news and they were interviewing Deion, and they said, well, Deion, what do you think about tomorrow's game against Louisiana Tech? And he goes, Louisiana Tech? He goes, oh, man, I'll run 3 back on them. And so all the guys were like going, holy cow, he just called us out. He said he's going to run 3 back. Well, he had an interception return, a kick return, and a punt return for a touchdown. He had 3 returns for touchdowns. He called out the night before on the news saying he was going to have a heck of a day against Louisiana Tech, and they were all blown away. Of course, Sam called me and goes, dude, this guy's an animal.
Now, what surprised me, Josh, about him, you can't teach speed and athleticism like Deion. It seems to me like it would be a completely different set of skills to be a great coach, but he seems to have that set of skills. And because there are no athletes like Deion who've ever translated to head coach like him before. But what is it about Deion that can do this?
His marketability is unbelievable, and the way he handles people. He loves them, but he's tough. He's a competitive dude. He knows that he's only as good as the people around him, so he's got to hire a great staff. I mean, he's got handlers everywhere, I'm sure. It's probably a show there within the organization and the people on the sidelines. I was watching that as that game unfolded, and they would show Shador, son on the sideline, and Travis Hunter and all those guys. I'm like, man, there's a lot of extra guys on the sideline. And Dion always likes a posse, right? I mean, he always has been that kind of guy. He loves having his dudes around, and they're loyal to him. And I think that's a part of head coaching. I know Urban Meyer's a friend of mine. He took a lot of heat in Jacksonville, but he didn't really hire coaches that were close to him and had a real loyalty to him. And so it was very difficult. And he told me this after he got fired. He goes, man, it was very difficult for me to not only win over the players, but to win over the other coaches with his coaching style, because they were so different and they didn't come with him from Ohio State or Florida or where he had been. And I think that's what Dion has done, is he's got loyal guys around him to the nth degree, and probably more than he should. But, they've got such a hype machine going there that he's going to win some ball games. And it's fun to watch, them throw the ball around like they did last week, have 400-yard plus receivers. I mean, who doesn't want to go play? That's why I called him about my son right after the game. I'm like, you guys had 400-yard receivers. That's amazing. That's an offense you want to play in as to be productive. And he's a fun guy to play for. So I'd love to. If I had to do it all over again, I'd want to play for either him or Lincoln Riley, because Lincoln is productive as heck too.
Josh, last one for you, and we're talking with Josh Booty. I mean, of all the quarterbacks that you watched, I guess you could go week 0 and week 1. I mean, is Caleb Williams still far and away the best one you've seen, or do you feel like there's going to be maybe a little competition for who's the best quarterback in college football?
Well, it's a team award too, but he's super special. And I think from a playmaking ability standpoint, the guy's second to none. He might be the best quarterback we've ever seen come through the University of Southern California. I've been around that program. My brother was a starting quarterback for Pete Carroll for 2 years. I was around Liner. Carson Palmer's a good friend. Matt Barkley, Sanchez is a good friend. All those guys, it's all come through USC. He's the best one, and I don't even think it's close. And that's crazy to say, because USC has been around a long, long time and have had a lot of, Heisman Trophy winners and a lot of offensive success. I do, however, think Drake May at North Carolina is an unbelievable player. I think he's a Kenny Pickett type player, where he can go in and start for an NFL team early. He's bright. His family's athletic. He's got an athletic background. His sisters, his brother, his dad. I mean, I think it's his whole family are athletes. So I would tend to lean on him probably being 1B. In terms of just upside potential in the NFL. I think he'll be an awesome pro, and I think Caleb will be too. He's kind of like Patrick Mahomes, so we're gonna see those guys do a lot of good stuff in the NFL and have great careers, I do assume.